Hello everybody, this is Joe Man from James River Homebrewers, and today I'm going to talk about that brand new kit that you just got. You don't know what to do with, but I'm going to cover some of the parts and some of the things that you need to know before you start brewing. First off, you usually get two pots, or two buckets. One bucket will have a hole in it, and that's for dispensing beer. The other one's going to be your primary fermenter. Now I do know people who use the bottling bucket for the primary, and the reason why they do that is this little space right here allows you to settle the trub out and rack that off into this bucket, making this the secondary, giving you a little bit clearer beer. I used to do this when I first started, but I found out by transferring beers so much that it just became oxidated, and it just had like a kind of a funny taste to it. So I stopped doing that and just using the primary. And then after I used the primary, racked it off into the bottling bucket and then bottled my beer, and it seemed to taste a little bit better. One of the components that goes on the bottling bucket is the spigot. It usually comes with two washers and a nut. Now, the way this operates is the nut and the washer go on the inside of the bottling bucket, and then this washer and spigot obviously go on the outside with the spigot facing down. Make sure you assemble it that way. I know people have done it incorrectly and end up with leaks, and you don't want your precious brew going all over. When I first opened my kit several years back when I started brewing, it came with one lid, and I thought that was a little odd with two buckets, but when you really think about it, you're only using one bucket at a time. Your primary fermenter will put the lid on there. Make sure it's good and sealed, and we'll talk about what this hole's about in a minute. Make sure it's good and sealed, pushed all the way down, all the way around the edges. They do make a tool that help you get this open. I never really bought that tool because I just with brute force got it open. But after that is full and you transfer the wort or the beer out of here into the bottling bucket, lid goes on there. That's why you only need one. One thing I do want to mention about the lid is this little grommet here. After a couple uses, you'll see some stuff to start to form around this grommet. It's okay, it's rubber. You can pinch and pull this right out and do some good deep cleaning on your lid. That'll help you preventing from getting any infections. Most of these things come with a bubbler. This is a three-piece bubbler system. Basically the way this works, there's a little hole there. This guy goes inside like that, and then you get the little cap that goes on top. I used to use the cap a lot when I first started, but in high gravity beers, sometimes the krausen would rise up into this tube and fill this whole thing up, and I had problems with this thing exploding. And if you've brewed a few years, you probably have a brown stain on your ceiling or in your closet, depending upon where you stored your beer during fermentation. But I found that leaving this lid off and using a piece of loose aluminum foil that's been sanitized, or just some wax paper with a rubber band around it, helps this not get clogged. Because there's little tiny holes on here. You can see it or not. Little tiny holes, and they will get clogged rather quickly. If it does come with the two-piece bubbler, this thing's really great, especially when you're cold crashing, because it lets the CO2 release as the beer is fermenting. But if you wanted to cold crash, obviously the airflow is going to go in this direction, and it keeps all the fluid that sits here in this little vial from going all the way around back into your beer. Talk a little bit about the fluid real quick. I know some folks like to use star sand. I found that it evaporates quick. Some sanitized water is great, but one of the things that I found very useful was just inexpensive vodka. It doesn't add any flavor to your beer, and if it does get in there, it's not going to hurt it. So that's very useful. It's also great for cleaning. You're also going to get a bottling wand with hopefully a little tubing on the end. You may have to cut this tubing off the tubing that comes with it. But yeah, put that on there and make it the right size, so when you have your bucket sitting on wherever it is you're going to bottle, that you can get the bottle underneath the bottle wand. So do a little pre-measuring, do a little pre-work, get that the right length. The way this operates, there's a little spring on the bottom here. When you push down on it, the beer is released. When you raise up, the beer stops flowing. Then we also have some one-step easy cleaner. Most of the kits come with the one-step. I used the one-step for the first year or so, got pretty good results. Later on I moved up to the two-stage cleaning, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. Your kit should also come with a thermometer. If you don't like this kind of thermometer, I did away with it rather quickly because I didn't like stuff going in and out of my beer and sanitizing in between uses. I used a digital thermometer, and they even have laser pointers now that are pretty cool. And then it should come with a hydrometer. I find that this is one of the most important things when making beer. It tells you your starting gravity and your finishing gravity. It lets you know when it is done. If you bottle it too soon, you can end up with bottle bombs. If you get a stuck fermentation, this will let you know by checking your gravity. And I've got a little tip to share with you a little bit later on in the video. Then you should also get a mash paddle of some sorts. Now what I did with my mash paddle, a little confusing. You're going to need to buy the bucket separate, the pot separate, is I marked my mash paddle gallon 1, gallon 2. You can see those little notches on there. So what I do is I put 1 gallon of water, set this in here, find out where that mark was, and I'd notch the mash paddle, give me kind of like a dipstick so I can kind of gauge how much water was in my pot. Speaking of the pot, it is, generally speaking, it does come separate unless it's a part of a promo deal where you get a little extra for your money. And a kit that is going to make 5 gallons is something that you need as well. And I recommend with the kits to, when you're going out and buying it, your first couple of batches, a lot of these have, you know, how difficult it is to brew. This one's really easy. So try to find an easy one when you're first starting out. You want to really nail down your processes. Kind of figure out how things flow, how your equipment works, get everything the way you want it. Now the hydrometer that came with mine did not come with this little tube. It's very, very helpful because you can fill it up with a little less beer. Again, it keeps you from putting the hydrometer, you know, in your beer. You can have a little less beer, float this in here, give it a spin, and it'll show you where the gravity reads. I mentioned earlier about oxidation. One of the little tricks I found to help prevent oxidation when checking the beer with the hydrometer to see if it was ready was I used a sanitized beer bottle. And the way this works is you're going to want to get a beer thief. A beer thief is used to, once you open up your fermenter, put that in there, you cover the hole up, then you would take the beer and dispense it into your cylinder, get that full, take your gravity reading. Once that's done, you can pour this back into your beer and then put like some paper towel in here, sort of like a Molotov cocktail. And just set that in the same place that your primary fermenter is going so it's the same temperature. And then you can go back to the bottle and check for if it's done or not. The other piece of equipment that I found very helpful was an auto siphon. It basically takes your racking cane, it slides down inside of here, and with a little pump action, it allows you to dispense your beer from one vessel to the other. Very, very helpful. And then last but not least, the two-step process that I mentioned earlier. The PBW, or Professional Brewer's Wash, is very, very helpful. That does the cleaning portion of it. And I always rinsed after cleaning, let it air dry, and then I switched over to Star Sand. You can also use other kind of sanitizers. I like Star Sand because it foams up and it gives me a comfort level that it's really getting into the cracks and crevices. And it's doing a great job. And what's helpful for me is I also wrote the instructions of what the mixture was on the top of the lid because the print on here is just incredibly small, even with the Star Sand. So that's what I got for this video. Hope you liked it. Leave some comments below and we'll see you next time.